Good evening, Papua New Guinea, and welcome to another episode of Business PNG. What is behind the fall in oil prices and how is it affecting petrol prices and the economy? And is this trickling down to the Papua New Guinean consumer? We answer the questions about one of the most important global financial trends since the financial crisis in 2008. As most car owners are aware, there is a drop in fuel prices at the Bowser. The cause is the plummeting price of a barrel of oil, which has fallen more than 70% since June 2014. Prices recovered a few times last year, but a barrel of oil has already sunk this year to its lowest level since 2006. By the looks of things, it'll probably take years before oil prices return to $90 or $100 a barrel, a price that was pretty much the norm over the last decade. The thing is, the price of oil is still dropping and has not found the bottom yet. This can be explained by the simple economics of supply and demand. The US domestic production has nearly doubled over the last several years, pushing out oil imports that need to find another home. Saudi, Nigerian and Algerian oil that once was sold in the United States is suddenly competing for Asian markets, and the producers are forced to drop prices. Canadian and Iraqi oil production and exports are rising year after year. Even the Russians, with all their economic problems, manage to keep pumping. Iranian oil has also entered the open market since the lifting of the UN sanctions recently. On the demand side, the economies of Europe and developing countries are weak and vehicles are becoming more energy efficient, so demand for fuel is lagging a bit. The beneficiaries of the drop in oil prices are motorists. Of course, at the fuel pump, things are great. However, drop in oil prices haven't quite translated to supermarket shelves or transport fares or easy pay. So why is it taking so long to see improvements in these other areas? Oil also happens to be the major input cost for shipping, aircraft and power generators. Some telecommunications towers across the country run on diesel generators. So why is it that freight costs, bus fare, air tickets, electricity and telecommunications costs haven't decreased in line with the falling of fuel prices? Taking a closer look at the situation, manufacturers and retailers from all the different sectors and industries increase their prices because of high fuel prices. This being said, consumers are now used to these high prices to the point where it's become a norm. It begs to question, now that these companies are saving 70% on fuel costs, shouldn't they also be passing the benefits to the customers? PNG Power has a large annual income. However, their profits are trivial simply because of inefficiency. Therefore, when fuel prices are high, by law, they seek permission from the ICCC to increase their retailing prices. On the contrary, PNG Power doesn't need ICCC's permission to decrease their prices. As it is, the cost of fuel significantly affects their prices. The same can be said for airline companies. The most important and expensive input is fuel. Just like any other legal organization, they answer to the ICCC to regulate their prices when increasing. However, permission is not needed to decrease retailing prices. Therefore, it is curious and confounding that air ticket prices are still sky high and defying economic gravity. A few telecommunication companies operate their towers around the country on diesel. So why are they still charging customers additional surcharges and not decreasing their calling and texting rates? One may call this corporate greed or just simply doing business. Whichever way one chooses to see it, the fact still remains that no change has trickled down to the majority of Papua New Guineans. According to the Independent Consumer and Competition Commission Commissioner, Paulus Ein, many businesses are yet to implement these reduced costs to reflect the drop in oil prices.
We have talked to the chambers in Port Moresby, and then we also would like to realize if this now reflected in some of the major shops by me going out into the provinces. Example, went to Manus, to Vanimo, but there appears to be the same situation at the moment, and most of the business houses in Port Moresby seem to be very silent at the moment. And yet again, we made another announcement for this month, a huge reduction, and we dropped diesel by 20 toea and petrol by 9 toea. kerosene by Tentoy. Now we understand these are changes that you don't expect them to change overnight because they are business decisions that they need to make. But over the last 18 months and taken on board the recent month, which is 19. So there is a lot of reduction, and we are projecting also that there will be a lot of reduction over the next few months given the volatile situation globally. So for us at the ICCC, we are appealing, we can only appeal to the business community to share these benefits. We understand there are other issues, the cost factors that involved in running the business, but our understanding is the major cost input would come from fuel. For example, most of the goods that are being moved around are driven by fuel itself. Yeah. And there are other factors that come in, but the major part would be fuel. So if the business community could share some of these cost savings with the people of this country.
If the low fuel prices aren't translated onto the shelves, the ICCC has gone as far as predicting a return of the price control index.
At this stage, the ICCC cannot step in to say, look, force the business houses to put the prices down. What we're only doing now is to appeal and to ask the business community to at least pass those cost savings or benefits to the people. However, if we continue to play this attitude towards the people of this country and ignore some of the appeals, genuine requests and all these things, and over time I am considering, subject to assessment, independent assessment of the market studies and all this, but we may go back to the old days of price controlling some of these goods. And this is what we are contemplating. But at this initial stages, we keep on appealing and requesting the business community.
Welcome back. Following the Prime Minister's visit to India late last year on the occasion of the Forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation, or FIPIC, a delegation from India arrived in the country early this week to meet businesses and suss out opportunities to invest.
Following the Prime Minister's visit to India late last year on the occasion of the Forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation, or FIPIC, a delegation from India arrived in the country early this week to meet businesses and scout opportunities to invest. The delegates represent an array of sectors from the BRIC member country, from health to education and social entrepreneurship. Since arriving in the country during the weekend, the Confederation of Indian Industry have met with government leaders including Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, leaders of industries and their counterparts in business.
This is our first ever mission, industrial mission to the Pacific Island countries, and I'm delighted we have come to Papua New Guinea, and as a famous poet said, if ever there was a paradise on earth, this is it, this is it, this is it. And that sums up from the bottom of my heart, the beauty, the tranquility, the opportunities, everything I see in this beautiful country.
The relationship that was forged during the recent FIPIC summit in Delhi and Jaipur in India is strengthened and continues through the CII's visit to the country.
My aim, among other things, is to understand the country, to understand the business opportunities here. I've come with an 11-member delegation who are representing various sectors, various areas of interest, and this is being the first thing, it's like a recce trip. And once we have seen the ground reality, we've met some wonderful people here. We were fortunate to meet the Prime Minister, Industries Minister. We had a wonderful presentation from the Investment Board. We have understood much more than we were quite ignorant when we came. We go back with tremendous knowledge of the country, which I will be talking to our industry members, sharing this knowledge with them, and God willing, maybe next time bring a much bigger delegation, because there's a lot of ignorance about this country both ways, and it's time people understood the potential of this beautiful land.
Jules Collins from Jules Collins Jewellery. designer and maker. I studied at COFA in Sydney, and I'm also a gemologist. I've done diamond technology, and I'm a jewellery valuer with the New South Wales Jewellery Valuers Council. I'm originally from Goroka, was born in Goroka, and we lived outside of Mount Hagen. And after having a jewellery shop in Sydney for the last 22 years, I've decided to come back to where I was from originally, and so I have pretty much brought my shop from Sydney all the way up to Port Moresby. I went straight from school and went to COFA, which is part of New South Wales University in Sydney, and I studied jewellery design and making. I particularly loved the designing side of things. I went out and worked for a couple of years for other people, but decided I didn't want to work for anyone else, so I threw caution to the wind and I started at the markets in Sydney originally. It's for the first 3 years, and then I opened my first shop on Oxford Street, and then after 12 years of being in Paddington, I decided to move into the Sydney's CBD, so I moved into a little boutique underneath the Sofitel Wentworth Hotel in Phillip Street in the city. I had a shop there for quite a few years as well, right up until pretty much before I came up to Port Moresby to open my shop. I've loved doing the designing, and in fact I've created a range particularly for PNG of my own design. I've always wanted to come back to PNG, and so I guess I was getting to the stage where I was either going to stay in Sydney forever or come back to PNG, so I decided to come back to PNG, and I've already found Kate, who's a fantastic sales girl. So Kate has just started this week as well. I'd also like to get a PNG jewellery workshop sort of happening as well, so that I can make and finish off pieces up here in PNG. Hopefully all going to plan. You know, I'll be having quite a production sort of going, hopefully in the next 6 months to a year, depending on how long it takes me to sort of pull everything together. So one of the biggest issues is security. You definitely need to be very aware of where all your jewellery is, and making sure that you keep a regular stock take on everything. Of course, everything to do with jewellery though is quite expensive, because you know you've got your precious metals of your sterling silver and your gold, plus insurance is expensive. Finding great staff who are reliable and trustworthy is always very hard. And I've also hopefully got some ranges which are affordable to everybody. My more range from Australia, which is perfumes and body creams, lip balms, this type of thing. Some of the soaps and the lip balms start at 25 kina, so I think that's a great price range to sort of bring everybody in. And then, going up to engagement rings is, quite an expensive purchase for people. So I'll hopefully have a little bit of a range for everybody. Because I'm a designer, I'm very happy to sort of sit down and design something up within a couple of hours for somebody if they want a special piece. We can usually make things up hopefully within 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how complicated the piece is. And with my PNG range, I've started with just quite a small range that I've designed so far. I've done billums, I've done Goroka baskets, I've done Village Life, which has got some of the animals and some of the huts and things like that. I've got beautiful birds of paradise, of course, but I've done a completely different range, all of my own design, which is like nothing we've seen in PNG before. And I've also done beautiful reef fish for all the people that love diving and fishing in PNG, which seems to be a big group of people. Oh, and tropical. I've done a tropical range, so I've got a beautiful, pineapples and banana bunches and things like this. Beautiful palm leaves and things. So I've done a bit of a different take on sort of lush, tropical, beautiful PNG. I would say to anybody who wants to start a business, I personally think one of the main factors is to do something that you love, because I think to do it well, you're going to be spending a lot of hours in it. And so I think it's important to be well educated in what you're going to be doing and passionate about it. And I think also one of the main things I think in small business particularly is perseverance and being able to plan, so that you don't just, when you've had a great day or whatever, you just don't go and sort of spend all of that money, because you can be sure that maybe the next week is going to be a quiet week. You've got to kind of plan so that you can survive through the troughs that are just inevitable, I think, in any business, the ups and the downs, to plan for each day and to sort of look into the future as well of how you want your business to go forward so you can keep growing it. But yeah, I'd definitely say the main thing is perseverance through all the good and the bad times.
And that's all from us tonight. For more business news, or if you would like to view this episode again, visit MTV Online at the URL at the bottom of the screen. Or for up-to-the-minute business news and updates, like our page on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at Business PNG or on Tumblr. Until next week, have a pleasant evening. I'm Michelle Bird, and this was Business PNG.